introduce myself, I'm Janelle. I'm a social entrepreneur and co-founder at Bantu. So I've been doing or in this social enterprise or starting this social enterprise for the last 2.5 years already. And for me, like, I'm very passionate about social innovation. So that kind of means like using technology as a leveler to improve like certain issues in our society. And using my education skills and my passion as well to try to do that. The very privileged thing that I've been able to do is to go on various like social entrepreneurship programs in the other parts of the world, like in the US, Brunei, Thailand, and that kind of helps me to think about what are the next things that the social sector needs to have in the next 5 years. So we're always looking forward and bringing like I see that I can bring whatever I've learned from the other parts of the world to bring it back, and try to do it before that 5 years even comes to us. So for myself, I decided to leave my e-commerce job at Amazon in 2017 to start Bantu. Because I realized that how much I could be doing with my like strong interest in technology, education, the skills, and I wanted to help like the underserved parts of society. So specifically, to help non-profits to engage with the communities better, because who else better to empower than the people who are actually working with the beneficiaries themselves. So after I've been on the ground for the last 2.5 years, I've really seen the firsthand, like the burnout of the managers and staff at non-profits. And, with my team, right, that's what we really set out to do, to be able to solve the everyday problems that organizations like yourself face on a daily basis. And that can be done through two things. Number one, through technology, so digitalization. And the second thing is to build knowledge capacity. So that refers to, improving what you can do and empowering you through like skills and learning. So that's what we've been really trying to do in the last 2 years. So in today's session, right, there's like basically 4 things that I want to be able to share with everyone, and I think they'll be very useful concepts in not just concepts, but actually helping to understand like how you should basically manage your data better, and think about why like data collection is very, very important, and how that kind of translates into much larger like benefits to your organization as a whole. So actually before I go to the actual nitty-gritty details and the very important essence part of this sharing, right, to share with you like what Bantu has been doing, is that we actually founded the company in 2017. So we are a social enterprise as well, like similar to James, and it's quite a rare kind of combination where we are a social enterprise but we are also a technology like software company. So it's quite an interesting kind of mix there. So what we really want to do is to build like easy to use technology for the Southeast Asia region, and now we are still very, very heavily invested in Singapore, trying to help the region here first, because we have so much advanced technology that it makes it easier for people in this country for now to pick up different software. And so digitalization actually starts from Singapore, which is actually pretty cool if you think about it. And yeah, as well as through capacity building. So our mission when we first started, our vision is really we want to see a world, right, where helping others is easy. So that is a very lofty ambition, but that really keeps us going every day. So one of the things that really show us that we should continue doing what we are doing, and just even though it's quite an arduous path to take on, and it's quite a lofty ambition to want to instill like digitalization and technology into the social sector. We were very, very privileged to win like to be awarded the Social Enterprise Startup of the Year by the President's Office last year, at the end of last year. And that kind of really emphasized to us that the work that we're doing is something that's seen as valuable by the public service, and that goal of trying to upskill and improve the digitalization of the social sector is something that the government really, really cares about. And we don't, as a social enterprise, we don't really have beneficiaries, which most social enterprises have. But what we do is that we really focus on working with non-profits as well as social enterprises to help them with technology. So that's kind of like what I've been really keeps us going as well, that understanding from the government that this is something important. So over the 2.5 years, we've been working with more than 70 organizations to help them help them with the management and engagement of their different community members better. So that includes like their volunteers, their donors, their beneficiaries, their trainings, and any kind of community member that they manage. So we really are very invested in this field, and working with really cool non-profits, even for people like yourself, organizations like yourself. We we are really invested in trying to help them to upskill, introduce technology, digitalization, providing that a lot of pro bono advice, because like we really care about trying to do this. um and what I wanted to share today is actually a lot of examples, of learning from my own customers and users on how they are managing their data better. I mean, through guidance from us, but also using Workspace, which is the software that we built, as an example of the many things that I'll be sharing today, because we really see the effects of having good data management through using technology, to be able to do the more work that you want to do at your organization. And in the COVID-19 situation, we've seen, I guess, we see it clearer than many, on the macro level, clearer than many, like we see on top of all the organizations, and we can really see the movement of how, a lot of volunteer programs, yes, it's true, they have, paused. Some of them, it's like they're not sure whether to continue because they need to redo their operational planning. And these are the kind of problems that we work through with our customers and users to make sure that it maybe is some of the programs, it is necessary to pause it for now, because there used to be a lot of interaction, and that's something that they cannot replicate through an online manner. And what we do is that we try to look at their community that they have at the moment, and how can they like redeploy them towards other sort of volunteering opportunities that they can still contribute to, while not stop like volunteering as a whole, because volunteering in itself is a way of engaging your community, and by extension these people become like potential donors to your organization as well. And that is the primary reason why organizations that we work with, right, they still continue some of their programs, and even though it's very very difficult, they still continue. A very good example, I would say, is like Tai Hua Kwan, moral charities. Yeah, so we've been working very closely with them also to continue their volunteer programs within the government measures, and making sure they can still do it as easily as prior to like the COVID-19 situation. So we really see the shift, in moving from something that is always just physical interaction to something perhaps equally as valuable, which is virtual volunteering. And we have seen it happen. Like, what I mean is that it's not just like I say like, okay, go do virtual volunteering. I don't mean that. We actually see it happening where our clients, they will ask for people to come and be graphic designers. They want them to do some translation, like James mentioned. They're looking for a lot of content creators as well, because that is the only way, unfortunately, during this time, to engage your community and your like the public at large. And the only way to do that is through online engagement. If not, you can always call them, that's not a problem. But in terms of mass engagement, having that online presence is extremely important. So we've really seen that shift, and we'll continue to see this shift, because we are like the tech company that's helping them. So it allows us as a company to really see the shifts in the entire sector. So I'll go straight into things. The first thing I wanted to talk about is the collection of data. It sounds like a very like a very boring topic, or quite a nerdy topic, but actually it is very very important. And this is something that we realized across the industry and the sector, that many people are not really doing this part well, and probably because they don't understand like what's the implication, or rather what is the wonderful things that can come out of great data collection, as well as structured data collection, and its effects comes in the long run, but sometimes we cannot see in the short run because we are very operationally involved with the things that we are doing. So we really try to encourage everyone that we work with, right, to really have proper data collection. So I'll be showing you how kind of like how difficult it is, when you want to like have a volunteer program. So this is a research that we did across many nonprofits that we work with. And this is the kind of typical steps, I would say, when someone just comes to you and say, hey, I want to volunteer. So most people who are not volunteer managers will just think that, oh, just sign them up, and then they're interested, right? Okay, sign them up, and then like ask them to come. But in actual fact, right, there are basically three different parts. And why I'm sharing with you this is because I want you guys to know that it is like we totally understand like how difficult it is, and transiting from a normal like running a normal volunteering program is already very challenging because of all the logistics and operational requirements. What more like moving it online, it's even a more like there are added steps and invisible steps that I will show a bit later. So in the first part, right, when you want to recruit people, they would someone will register their interest, they tell you that they want to come, and what do you do? You would export information to Excel, and then you would like check the master list, your existing like list, did they ever come to volunteer with you before? And then you would like key in, if it's a new person, you key into the master list, and then what do? You would send a approval email to the volunteer. You tell them that, hey, yeah, you can come to volunteer for us, a slot is available, etc. And then we have the next part where then you can email volunteers about the new projects, upcoming projects, etc. And then the volunteer signs up. So then you would go to the master list to say that the volunteer is attending, and then you email them to tell them, hey, remember to come. And then after that, if the volunteer say, oh, sorry, I cannot make it because my mother's birthday this Sunday, okay, then you have to update your master list again. So this is the event project sign up process. And then the last thing is you always need to collect attendance. So what happens is that the volunteer shows up for the event, you update your attendance sheet maybe on a piece of paper, or maybe a digital tool that you use. You transfer the attendance to the master list to indicate that this person came. You calculate the hours that they attended, and then you send a thank you email. And then later on, if someone asks you, hey, how can I have my volunteer records? Okay, you need to go to the master list and find again. So actually what we notice across many nonprofits, right, is that actually for every like one step that a volunteer takes, right, which means the ones in purple, there's basically 4 things or more that the volunteer manager needs to do. And it's actually not as simple as most people think. And maybe you have not really thought about what are the exact process, like step by step, that you have been taking as a volunteer manager to manage your volunteers. But this is already the summarized version and the bare minimum of running any like volunteer program and facilitating that volunteers sign up properly. So however, across time, right, actually collecting data has changed. So for most of you, like you'll probably be in different modes of collecting data depending on your organization's strategy as well as decisions that you made. But actually collecting data is the most fundamental and the most important step, before you can really understand your community and make sure that the volunteers that you engage, they are constantly engaged, where because you really understand them, you understand their contributions, you understand them, their demographics, what their medical history is. There is a lot of data that needs to be understood from a person before you can truly understand, how they can further contribute to your organization. So there is an evolution of data collection in volunteer management. So we start off with like paper forms, and then if our organization is slightly more tech savvy, okay, we send our volunteers not a Word document or a PDF form to sign, to put their details in. If you're a bit more tech savvy, we use online forms, but maybe we are a bit scared of security, so maybe we don't. But for those that do online forms, it's like Google Sheets or Typeform, or maybe the forms.gov.sg, that's also considered online form. And then finally, we have CRM forms. So CRM forms basically are forms that are connected directly to your database, which I will share more in a bit. So I wanted to share, right, and take this time for you guys to kind of think like which stage is your organization at in data collection? Like what mode are you currently using? And I'll share with you like the pros and cons of doing so. And with the pros and cons, you can evaluate, is this something that you want to continue doing, or do you want to see if there's an alternate evolution of form that you want to use? So firstly, we have easy to collect for paper forms. It is very easy to collect signatures. This is the biggest differentiation in comparison to the other forms that I was talking about. And there's almost no technical expertise needed. So if you work with senior volunteers, or sometimes senior volunteers also will get another person to sign up for them because it's a bit long. But there's almost no technical expertise needed. But the main problem is that the admin has to export, they have to reconcile, deduplicate the data, each form manually. And then not to forget, you have handwriting issues. Okay, so the next one we have Word document and PDF form. So this means that you would send the PDF, a PDF form or Word document to them, to the volunteers to sign up for something. So in the virtualness of things, because of COVID-19, I see that a lot of organizations, in order to get more volunteers, they use this mode now because they used to have a soft copy, a hard copy. Then now they send the soft copy to everyone. So that's what is happening now as well. So the main good thing about using this, right, is that you can set up different types of questions, because you can ask them for everything in the world. You can ask them where, who their mom is. Okay, if you do ask that, I'm just joking. You can ask them, when they're available. But the tricky thing is that not all questions, you use. The side point is that not all questions that you ask, you will eventually use the data for. So that's another separate webinar for another day, but it's okay. But the main pro is that it's really easy to export the data from here because you can just take out the without reading from the paper form. You can just copy and paste the different things that they share with you. But the main con is that it's extremely difficult for the volunteer to fill up the form on the computer, because you need a tool to do it. Even for myself, I find it a hassle. And the admin has to export data from each form manually, so it's still like a manual process. And for online forms, right, so this is quite straightforward. So you can set up different types of forms. You can also easily export data. But the main con is that the forms that you create, right, will always be created inconsistently. So this means that the questions you ask will always be different. The way you log the data will always be different. And what happens most of the time in the organization is that you spend a lot of time reconciling and deduplicating the data to, let's say, a spreadsheet or your existing database. So the last kind of form, which is a CRM or VMS form, it is, I would say, the best evolution of a form yet. So this is something that you should definitely consider. So this is a form that is directly connected to your database, and which means that there is no time that is spent by admin to export, reconcile, and deduplicate data. Everything just connects to your database already. You will never have duplicates because there's always the system can identify, like, who whether or not this person ever signed up with you before, and your data is always consistent across the entire organization. And so this is basically the main pro of having a VMS form that really helps to streamline all your data collection. So how you should collect data from your community. Okay, so this is like a GIF that we take from our platform. You should definitely consider using a VMS form, like a CRM form, followed by a online form, Word document, and then paper form. So always consider using a VMS form at the very beginning, right from the very beginning. Otherwise, it's insane when you need to kind of collect the data, reconcile, and everything. The second part would be about data centralization. So this is actually a concept that I'm not sure if the level of understanding of this concept, but it's basically what happens when your organization grows in size. When you're small, right, you don't really need much centralization because, like, your brain is the center of all the data. And it shouldn't be, because every organization should be process oriented, not human oriented. So this problem becomes more apparent when your organization grows in size. So the question I want to ask is, like, what happens when you really want to grow your organization from like 50 to 1,000 people, and then you want to reach a 10,000 goal one day, and as an organization, this is something that is a very important goal you want to achieve. So the question is, like, how do you currently share and keep volunteer information accurate and updated across all your colleagues? So I'm not even talking about different locations, but I'm talking about within your colleagues, right? How do you make sure that the volunteer information you have is the most updated version of the person? So a case in point would be, like, if we have a volunteer called Jane Tan. This is a very common issue, across non-profit. So the staff A would receive a form, that has the email and the person's number. And then staff B receives a second sign up from the same email address with a different number. So at this point, like, how do you know which is the real phone number of Jane? And how are you going to reconcile this? So this always happens in every organization. So why data centralization is important, which means having a place where the data is automatically, like, centralized and keeps a single record of every person, is because we always want to provide a single source of truth. Data collection needs to be very clean, and clean is the main word. We want to have a clean database. We want to reduce duplicated data, so we don't want data to, like, kind of duplicate. That's a bad thing in a data collection. You have like maybe 10 people with the same exact email address, or 10 of the exact same person. And what we want to do is to reduce messy and incorrect data. Why we want to do these three things is because at the end of the day, we want to ease and reduce the stress on the volunteer manager's workflow. And by centralizing data, this reduces so much time that you take to be able to, understand who the people are and if they are the same person or not. And this is like why. So what kinds of data should you centralize across your organization? So maybe throughout my sharing now, right, you have been thinking like, oh, it's like what their race is, what their IC number, okay, don't call like that, or what their family background is. So more personal information. But beyond personal information, right, there's many things that actually you need to centralize in your organization about a single person. So that includes like skills and roles. You have which means that you know that, okay, this person has photography skills, and this person has been a befriender before, this person has been a donor before in my organization, this person can speak Tamil, this person can speak Hokkien. So you need to have a centralized record, right, of this person's skills, and not the other way where, you get a volunteer, you have a volunteer program and you say, okay, everyone, you need to have English skills, and you never ever record this information tagged to this particular person. And the reason for this is because you want to be able to redeploy these people in the future, and engage with them in the future in the right way, in the right manner. The third thing you should centralize is availability of your volunteers. So this means that you need a central place to be able to roster people, know who is coming, know who withdraw from your program, and what roles are they doing, what are they going to be doing on the day when they come to your volunteer program, what are they going to do. And the last thing is contribution. So centralizing that the data that happens after the volunteer activity. So that means like event tracking, your attendance rate, how many hours they serve, and together these four things, right, are data that you should centralize in your entire organization for better success in your nonprofit. So the last part that I don't think I have time to go through a lot, but I hope everyone is learning something from this, because these are problems that we see happening every day with the even the tech savvy clients that we work with. So the third thing I want to share about is data accuracy and breadth. So a case in point, right, is that you want to deliver food, right, and you need 100 volunteers. So when you have this problem that, let's say, your boss comes to you and say that, I think we need this to solve this problem, or let's say NCSS comes to you and say that, or MSF, we need to be able to do this program. Do you guys want to help out with it? So at this point in time, you always ask yourself, like, who should you contact? Which volunteers? Are you just going to mass send everybody? Of course you can. But do you know who has a driving license? Do you know who has a car? Or do you just wait for the volunteers to tell you, yes, I have a car, and you just deploy them? And who is most likely to help you out? So how do you know who are the most engaged people within your organization? And if this is a daily thing, right, who is available at 2 p.m. Daily? If you have a good database prior to this, right, you can answer all these questions, right, within a few minutes, because you have all the data in place. So you'll be able to deploy volunteers quickly without even like having to call every single person, or send a blast SMS to like maybe 2,000 people in your database. Like, that is not necessary. So the point is that, right, if you have inaccurate data that you collect across time, you don't collect volunteering hours in a structured manner, you don't collect contributed hours, roles and skills properly, right, the long lasting effect is that you don't understand your volunteers, you cannot engage with them because you don't match them to the right roles, because they have all wonderful skills but you can't really match them, and you can't like send them personalized appreciation messages because you don't know like these were my top 10 volunteers of the year. So that's a long lasting effects. So two sample case studies that I will just share before I end my sharing today is that we have Very Special Arts, which is one of the users that we have, and I've been really, really happy to work with them over the last 2 years to help them with all their volunteering activities. They work with like special needs children and using arts to kind of educate them and bring them back into society. So their problem was that they had really inefficient admin processes. Their volunteer recruitment process is very, very like messy because they use different platforms, and their main problem that they shared with us is that they have incomplete data being collected. So what did they do? So they wanted like an event management solution with a centralized database. So this means that there's a database like a CRM tool, a VMS, that helps you to recruit, schedule, and do data management all together in one space. Because I never see that the community and your activities should be managed separately. It's a concept that we strongly believe in. I'll just skip this one. So yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I don't ever think that in our experience in 2.5 years, right, community and activities should always be paired side by side. Because all the activities you run always involves a person, and of course the activity itself. So many organizations are doing this separately, and that's why volunteer management becomes a very, very difficult part, because you need to engage people because you are trying to solve some need, but you don't know who you should go out to, and you don't know much about who these people are, and in the end your database just becomes like we call it like a dead database, because you don't use the data in the first place. So uh, that's why we created this platform that which is Bantu Workspace. It's a platform that helps you to manage both your activities as well as community. So it's a CRM with event management and communication tools, because we don't believe that these two parts should be separated in the first place. And with regards to online events, it creates even more issues. Like, how are you going to track virtualness of like volunteering? How are you going to track like people who do online counseling, or they have one-to-one conversations with your beneficiaries? Like, how it's even more complicated. How do you track them when they go on a training program online? Like, because you don't have that physical interaction. So the only way is that you need to be able to to be able to run your virtual volunteering programs in the same way that you run your original offline programs, which means that you need event management tool, you need your CRM, and all this works together to be able to create a more successful like virtual volunteering program. So you can basically do it, and we just launched a new feature that you can check out on our blog. But it's about hosting online programs. So we realized that there's a huge importance in trying to bring your offline project to be able to organize it in the same way you organize your online project. So now on Bantu Workspace, you're able to basically track all your online events together with your offline events that you previously did. So this is basically the value that we provide to the users that we work with at this current moment, to bring their programs online. That is the meaning of bringing your programs online, and connecting it with your CRM or VMS tool. Yep. So you can mark attendance. Everything is still done in the same way for virtualness. So some of the resources that I wanted to share before James can share his resources is that actually every week we post like really relevant and seasonal kind of resources to help the non-profits based on the conversations we have with them on a daily basis. And these are the different things that we've created, and we hope that this is part of our way to build the knowledge and capacity of the non-profits that we work with. And this is definitely something you can check out. It's all free. You can just read it and share with your colleagues if you want. So it's like blog.bantu.life.